A name you don't often hear, yet it silently shapes nearly every part of your life, your savings, your home, even what you watch on TV. Behind the curtain of global finance stands a company so vast, so powerful, and so quietly entrenched in our daily existence that most people don't even realize it exists. That company is BlackRock. On paper, it is an asset management firm. In reality, it is an empire with more influence over governments, corporations, and culture than any single nation on Earth. BlackRock's reach is staggering. With over $10 trillion in assets under management, it wields financial firepower equivalent to half of the entire US GDP. Through quiet deals and seemingly harmless investments, it has taken control of banks, pharmaceutical giants, tech monopolies, and even the media we consume. BlackRock doesn't just manage money, it manages the very pulse of the global economy. And the unsettling truth: you may never have heard about it, precisely because they don't want you to. Let's peel back the layers of this financial giant and trace how a firm that started in 1988 with a few $1 million grew into the most powerful company in the modern world. The story begins with its founder, Larry Fink. Born in Los Angeles in 1952, Fink was ambitious, calculating, and determined to wield influence, not in politics, but in finance, where the real levers of power exist. His early career was a mix of brilliance and disaster. At first Boston, a major investment bank, he created billions in profit from mortgage-backed securities, an invention that would later detonate the global economy in 2008. But before his genius was cemented, he made a colossal mistake. One miscalculated trade cost his firm $100 million. His reputation was shattered, and he was cast out. Most men would have been broken. Larry Fink, however, turned failure into opportunity. Instead of chasing risky profits, he vowed to master risk itself. From that conviction, BlackRock was born in 1988. Its founding principle was deceptively simple: manage money with discipline, protect investors from risk, and control data so precisely that no mistake could ever happen again. Within just 5 years, BlackRock grew from $5 million in assets to $8 billion. But this was only the beginning. As the 1990s unfolded, Fink orchestrated ruthless internal power plays, consolidating his control. By the time his co-founder was forced out, Larry Fink was free to pursue his ultimate ambition, building a company not just wealthy, but untouchably powerful. Then came 2008, the financial crisis that nearly destroyed the global economy. For ordinary people, it was a nightmare: homes lost, savings erased, livelihoods shattered. But for BlackRock, the disaster was an unprecedented opportunity. Unlike the big banks, BlackRock had avoided the reckless risks. And because of Fink's intimate knowledge of the toxic mortgage securities he himself had pioneered decades earlier, governments turned to BlackRock as the fixer. The US Treasury and the Federal Reserve handed the firm uncontested contracts to manage billions in toxic assets from collapsing banks. While the world bled, BlackRock expanded. It was no longer just a financial player, it was now an indispensable arm of government. From there, its dominance exploded. BlackRock became the world's largest provider of ETFs, funds that spread money across entire industries, allowing it to accumulate quiet stakes in nearly every major company on Earth. Look into Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Exxon, JP Morgan, or Disney, and you will almost always find BlackRock listed as a top shareholder. This wasn't coincidence, it was strategy. With a single product, BlackRock had entangled itself into the DNA of the global economy. But sheer scale wasn't enough. Larry Fink understood that the future of power would be written in algorithms and data. So BlackRock built Aladdin, a supercomputer platform that now manages over $20 trillion in assets, not just for BlackRock, but for governments, central banks, and rival corporations. To put that in perspective, Aladdin oversees a sum greater than the entire GDP of the United States. Every investment decision, every portfolio adjustment, every risk scenario, it all passes through Aladdin. And because BlackRock owns the data of banks, insurance companies, pension funds, and even social media giants, Aladdin has access to more intimate financial information about you, your neighbors, and your country than almost any government intelligence agency. This isn't just about money. Control of data means control of decisions, both corporate and political. When the European Union needed regulators for banks, BlackRock was hired, despite already owning shares in those very same banks. Conflict of interest became standard practice. The firm now advises central banks on policy, while simultaneously profiting from the very industries it is meant to oversee. And then there's the media. Alongside Vanguard, another colossal investment firm, BlackRock owns large stakes in Fox, CBS, Comcast, Disney, and dozens more. Indirectly, it controls over 90% of mainstream media outlets. And because BlackRock owns the data of banks, insurance companies, pension funds, and even social media giants, Aladdin has access to more intimate financial information about you, your neighbors, and your country than almost any government intelligence agency. Can we still speak of free press? But perhaps the most disturbing development came in 2020, when BlackRock became the first foreign firm allowed to enter China's mutual fund market. Billions in Western pensions and retirement accounts now flow into Chinese companies, some directly tied to the Chinese Communist Party and its surveillance apparatus. Imagine the irony: while BlackRock publicly lectures Western companies about social responsibility and sustainable investing, it funnels money into corporations accused of human rights abuses and mass surveillance. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. Perhaps this is the true face of 21st century power, not governments, not armies, but corporations, so vast that they shape the destinies of nations. BlackRock doesn't need to win elections. It doesn't need to pass laws. With enough money, data, and influence, it simply bends the system to its will. And the most unsettling part of all, we let it happen, because we never even saw it coming. The question now is not whether BlackRock is powerful. That much is undeniable. The real question is what happens when one company becomes more powerful than the governments meant to keep it in check. What happens when democracy itself is overshadowed by the balance sheets of a trillion-dollar empire? And what happens when the people finally realize that the freedoms they thought they had were already sold, one investment at a time?